Hey everyone, Priory here. It is Bookmas day 22. So I don't know exactly anymore whether I mentioned this yesterday because I'm filming the 24 day of Bookmas, the 24 days of Christmas book tag as well. But so one of the kittens that I'm fostering at the moment, so I'm fostering a mother and two kittens until they get adopted. And one of the kittens broke her paw last weekend, and so she was getting her operated today, and I just got news that the operation went fine and that she's waking up, and so now I can finally start filming for today because my mood was really not, I was really not in the mood for film because my mind was just too occupied with like the anxiety of I hope everything is gonna be okay, and I hope you never know, of course, with these type of operations. But so everything went fine, and I know that he was already waking up. So I'm looking forward to picking him up tomorrow morning. But so for Bookmas Day 22, I'll be talking about the most anticipated books of 2019. Now, some of these I will have already mentioned yesterday in the most anticipated sequels of 2019, but I'll just be mentioning the ones that I'm like super hyped about, that I really want to get to the first day. I won't promise doing that because I actually never do that. And I will also mention some others that really interest me and that are usually like first ones in the series or even standalones. I don't really know whether I have a standalone in there, but we will see as I go through the list. So the first one that I have on there is, so I'll just first mention the two that I already mentioned in yesterday's video. So the first one is The Testaments by Margaret Atwood, and this is the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, which has been made into a TV series that has been widely acclaimed and is very much beloved by the audiences. The second book, so the sequel in the book form will not corresponds to the second season in the TV shows. So the first season pretty much follows the book of The Handmaid's Tale, and but book 2 will not revolve around the same characters as far as I understood. I believe it's more like set later on in the same universe, or more of a reflection on how that universe developed itself. And so the second one that I also already mentioned is The Rosy Result by Graham Simpson, and this is a third book in a series, and we follow like a man who's somewhat on the spectrum. Everything needs to follow these rigorous rules, or needs to follow a certain logic in order to fit into his way of seeing the world. And he then meets like a very chaotic woman who totally messes up his balance, and it's about the interaction that ensues between the two of them. I absolutely loved his first two ones. They were very charming, very funny, and just very quick reads, but also very charming reads. Never felt like I was reading, like I was wasting my time reading it. I really did feel like it was worth it. And then the third one that I'm going to be mentioning is one that will be on many lists for next year, and this is the Starless C by Aaron Morgenstern. I'll try to say this in the English way, not in the Dutch way. But so Aaron Morgenstern is the author of The Night Circus. Now I have The Night Circus here, and I have read it. I know I liked it. The problem is that I really cannot remember too much about it. So I should definitely reread it. But so the second book that Aaron Morgenstern is bringing out will be completely different from The Night Circus. It will be a standalone. I do basically know nothing about it, but that's also the way that I like to go into my books, so I would like to keep it that way. But in any case, The Night Circus, I definitely know that it had a very nice atmosphere to it, which I very much like. It felt it had a bit more of like the magical realism atmosphere than it had a real fantasy atmosphere to it, and I always like magical realism a lot, so even though it's definitely fantasy, I really like the atmosphere that was evoked in The Night Circus. But so I'm very much looking forward to the Starless C and to see whether I enjoy it as much as I did the first one, and possibly rereading The Night Circus. Next book on my list is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I know not a lot about it. It is a fantasy. It's supposed to be a standalone as well. It's going to be a gigantic book. It's supposed to feature dragons and something with like a queendom, like a fight for a throne or something like that, I believe it is. And Shannon, oh my god, stop saying it, Samantha Shannon. So Samantha Shannon apparently is also the author of the Bone Season, which I have not read. So yeah, like this, you know, the teaser text that you get is like, a world divided, a queendom without an heir, an ancient enemy awakens. That's enough for me. I don't need to go into the full backstory of the world. It's just, yeah, it's gonna be a story about good versus evil, but probably also about like the politics of finding, like, of dealing with a situation in which a queendom doesn't have an heir, and so who will be the successor, and probably a lot of like political strife and backstabbing and things like that, which I very much like. And the cover has a dragon on it, so I'm suspecting that there's also going to be dragons in it. But so yeah, Samantha Shannon is also the author of the Bone Season, which I haven't read. So I don't, and it's going to be my first introduction to this author, but I've already pre-ordered it, so I'm definitely looking forward to getting to that book. It's going to be a huge book, but I like big books, and I cannot lie. And then the next one on my list is also fantasy, but this is actually the first one in a series, and that is Descendants of the Crane, or Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. I don't know how you say that in English. I will do it just in Chinese. He. So Joan He. I don't know which tone, but okay. Descendants of the Crane. So as far as I'm aware, I'm looking it up at the same time, sorry. As far as I'm aware, it is a Chinese-inspired fantasy. Descendant of the Crane, got it. Ah, it's actually not a first in a series. Sorry. I was wrong. It is a standalone, or at least it is put on Goodreads as if it's gonna be a standalone. The teaser for this one is tyrants cut out hearts, rulers sacrifice their own. But as far as I'm aware, because yeah, so it's a Chinese-inspired fantasy, and it's about a determined and vulnerable, young heroine struggling to do right in a world brimming with deception. So, I mean, this could go wrong as well, you know, a determined and vulnerable young heroine sounds like a trope that I'm not necessarily always a fan of. It can be done correctly, of course, but it can also spiral into a stereotypical view on females that I'm not necessarily a fan of. So we'll have to see what that brings when I actually read the book. I think I already pre-ordered it, but I'm not entirely sure. It might be that I just want to get this on ebook. I pre-ordered a bunch of books and now I'm having troubles remembering which ones I actually pre-ordered. Now the next one is one that will be on many people's list, and it's On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. It's the second book by the author of The Hate You Give. I absolutely love The Hate You Give. I'm a bit hesitant about On the Come Up for that reason. Just because I'm a bit hesitant in the sense that, oh no, I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to find out that that this book is going to be that I'll be less excited about it. I'm kind of anticipating that, which is sad, but I am indeed anticipating it to be less impactful, just because of the grandness of, yeah, it's hard to describe, just because of how much I love The Hate You Give and of how special I thought The Hate You Give was. I just don't see this returning, but who knows. But so On the Come Up, as far as I know, is about a young African-American female protagonist who wants to become a rapper, I believe, or at least it has something to do with the music scene. But basically I was just sold on the fact that it was another novel by Angie Thomas. I'm not necessarily much of a fan of music stories in books, so we'll have to see there, but I'm definitely, it doesn't sound like it, but I'm going into it with an open mind. I really hope I I really hope to find out that this is as good as The Hate You Give, or at least like pretty solid compared like quality wise. And then the next book that I have on there is actually a sequel, so I should have actually mentioned it in my previous video, but it's not like, it is a sequel in that it is part of like a series, but the books in that series don't necessarily follow one another, so that's why I kind of forgot it. And that is Spring by Alice Smith. So she is doing seasonal books, so I think in 2017 I think her book, no, it's already longer ago I think. Yeah, no, 2017 her book Fall came out, 2018 I think Winter, and so this year Spring is up. I really liked Autumn. I was not such a big fan of Winter, even though Winter is my favorite season, and maybe I just wasn't in the mood for the type of book that Alice Smith writes, because it is very much more about like the poetics, I feel. It's very much character driven, not plot driven, and sometimes I'm definitely not in the mood for that, so I'll have to see. I'll have to definitely for this one find, like, really take the time to see, okay, am I in the mood for a character driven story, and if after a couple of pages I'm not really in the mood, just maybe say, okay, maybe not now, and maybe just go into it later, because Autumn I really liked, so I really don't want to ruin the experience for Spring. And then I think it's the final one I have on there now. No, I still have a couple. Yay. So the next one is Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon, sorry. So Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. Now I've already read a book by Marlon James, and I have to say that I was actually not a fan. But apparently this is a very different one. So the book that I already read was like The 7 Killings of, yeah, I don't even remember the title. It was like set in Jamaica. It was about the death of Bob Marley, like the assassination of Bob Marley. And I don't know whether it was just a subject matter that I couldn't care less about, because as I told you before, I'm not really that much into music, the link between music and books, which I may be even basing on this book. But in any case, the book that he's bringing out now is a fantasy series, and I've seen a booktube video by, I think it was Erik, in which he already says like Stop the Press is the best book of 2019 has already been written, so which is saying a lot. And Erik mostly reads like more like literary fiction, so it's interesting to see him say this about a fantasy novel. So I'm expecting a fantasy novel that is like different than your regular fantasy novel. In any case, he got me really excited with his video. I've forgotten the entire premises of the book, and I'm not going to look into it neither, because as I said before, I like to go into my books relatively blind. But so yeah, it's pre-ordered. I will start it when it comes out in February, I believe. There's a lot of the books that I pre-ordered come out in February, so I'll have a very busy February, it seems. And so the next one that is on my list is also, so when I was researching this video, actually I came up with so many books that I actually pre-ordered a lot due to this video. And so that's got me really excited about this book, because I always like books that can, that can present an original storyline that you cannot guess in advance what's going to happen, and in which you're not going like, yeah, I predicted that. So, I mean, I'm not saying that every single book that doesn't have an original plot line is dull or average, but it definitely has a bigger chance of being dull or average when you can already predict the plot line. So, I'm really looking forward to this one. And so the final one that is on there is Gingerbread by Helen Oyeyemi, which I don't know how to pronounce, but okay. Gingerbread, as you can probably tell by the title, combines some interesting elements from fairy tales, for example, from Hansel and Gretel, and that's all I'm going to go into about it. I haven't personally read the rest of the info about it, basically because I have a mixed feelings about retellings or like spin-offs of certain beloved stories, because I usually always find the originals to be better, and for like I look forward to reading another story with the same characters, for example, but I'm usually disappointed. So this is why after seeing a lot of booktubers be so excited about a lot of retellings, I told myself I want to get more into retellings, or at least to give retellings another go. And so Hansel and Gretel is definitely not my favorite fairy tale of all times. It's not one of my favorite fairy tales at all. And so I definitely feel like a retelling which has elements from Hansel and Gretel in it has more of a chance than any other. Yeah, I feel like based on what I read that it's gonna be more like literary fiction work, which definitely also has a bigger chance on my side to be well appreciated. But so in any case, these elements, the fact that I'm not really into retellings, has really made, that has really reinforced the fact that I don't want to know too much about this one going into it, because I wanted to be able to go into it with as open a mind as I can possibly be. And so the fact that I only know that it has elements, I don't even think that it's a full retelling of the story, just believe it has elements from it, from Hansel and Gretel, maybe some other fairy tales, is all that I'm willing to know at this time, because that's still okay for me, and that's so little that I don't build up any sort of expectation about it, and so if I get disappointed, it's just going to be the disappointment of either what's built up in the beginning of the book or the book in general just being not good, in my opinion, or it can be a surprise because it came with no expectations and I ended up loving it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to all of this, and I hope to be getting to them in 2019. If you've got more anticipated books that you're looking forward to in 2019, definitely let me know down below. If one of these books sparked an interest in you, definitely also let me know. It'll be very interesting to see. I'm really very happy to know that I've inspired somebody to pick up a certain book. But so yeah, in any case, see you guys tomorrow. I think tomorrow is my 2019 TBR. So I'll be making a list of 19 books that I want to get to in 2019. So yeah, see you guys tomorrow for those plans. Bye!